But now notice what McAdams writes in the introduction of the book. He says, quote, "The problem for this book is how to present the 1974 Huss paper and at the same time show the changes made for the 1977 revision. My solution is to publish the 1974 paper, marking with boldface the passages deleted in the 1977 paper and inserting underlined and within brackets the additions requested by Arthur White. The reader can easily see that the purpose of almost every change was to soften the blow. Comments that raised difficult questions or challenges were deleted, affirming passages were added, and strong words were modified. For example, my assertion that the evidence shows that Wiley was the source of the historical narrative in great controversy was softened to say that Wiley was the immediate source." Close quote. Now, Steve, if that just isn't the most SDA thing ever, this is what I was mentioning earlier, folks, about how everything has to be rewritten in the most polished, button-up presentation, that everything's perfect. It's great. Everything is wonderful. Word games. It's word games. But the book clearly shows what McAdams originally wrote and Arthur White's additions and revisions to that original paper, which is rather ironic considering that's basically what Ellen White did to those that she was stealing from. So I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree after all. But Steve, question for you. How does this match up with what you note about Arthur White in your book, The White Estate Fraud? And what does this tell us about the great controversy narrative?
Well, I don't think Arthur White could look any worse than what I present him to be in The White Estate Fraud. I mean, you just talk about a deceiver, a person who hides, who's secretive, who colludes with a woman who's a total liar and sociopath. And the two of them do everything they can to destroy an honest man's character and feed into the false Adventist narrative that Canwright was the devil and deserved to be, tarred and feathered and crucified in every way possible, which is what Adventists have done to him. But it was really, I Was Canwright's Secretary that was the crowning book that destroyed Canwright for Adventists. And Arthur White was the one who ghost wrote that book. And so nothing can surprise me about Arthur White. When you see what he did with Kerry Johnson and what he did to Canwright, then what he did with McAdams is small potatoes. I mean, this guy is just the absolute worst. And for the Adventist Church to continue to honor him, lift him up as Ellen White's biographer, the whole thing is just a complete joke. And I don't know how long these people are going to be able to function in their alternative reality, but the internet is definitely catching up with them. And it really, makes me take note when someone like Casebold, who's still an Adventist in my understanding, comes out with his two books, because he's just adding to the whole pile-on that really makes what Adventists have done completely indefensible. There's just no getting around it. And as far as the great controversy narrative, how ironic that they're throwing out billions, a billion of these books. And I know people who've received them, and they were just thrown onto their driveway. They didn't even pay for mail or anything. They just litter these books into people's yards or on their driveway and call that witnessing or evangelism. It's absolutely laughable that the church is spending their tithe payer money this way. And you talk about an outdated, ridiculous book. If they were going to do something like this, why wouldn't they do it with Steps to Christ or Desire of Ages, which those books also have their huge problems. But at least they're not the ridiculous stupidity of great controversy with what it says about Catholics and apostate Protestants and, Sunday laws and we know good and well where Ellen White got Sunday laws. She got them from the Blair bill that was before Congress in 1889, and she was all hyper about this. And so she claimed God showed her all these visions of what was going to happen, but the bill died and never came forward again. And there's never been a threat of Sunday laws in the United States since. And the whole notion that there's going to be a worldwide Sunday law, given what we know about what's happening in globalism and the stuff in our world today, I mean, I don't know how out of touch with reality you have to be. It's like you might as well be on the Flat Earth Society. Adventists throwing these books into people's yards is really the equivalent of the Flat Earth Society. That's what they're functioning like. Just people that are 100% out of touch with reality.